we have a new pasuk, which is 1817. Tzadik harishon b'rivo, and then this is a Greek sieve here, so we'll create the Kri. Uva re'ehu v'chakaro. I think this is another rhyming one, a little bit better than Ibn Ezra's rhymes.
So does that mean there's two different ideas for that word?
For the Greek sieve?
Yeah.
So the only one I've really seen consistently address Greek sieves in Mishlei is Rabbeinu Yonah, and I think sometimes he takes it as like there's two ideas, but sometimes he takes it as like a nuance of the idea is being conveyed through the ksiv, So this one though is a puzzling kind because it looks more like a scribal Greek sieve, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like that the vav got like, yeah. So I don't know if that's a thing or not, but yeah. So for our purposes, we'll treat it as though the Kri is the one that we're supposed to do, and then if we find a ksiv, then idea for the ksiv, we'll do that. All right. So how do we translate this one? This is a little hard to translate also. The syntax is weird.
Topic the first in his conflict.
Yeah. The weird thing about it is it's not really stating like is, was, will be, like what's the yeah. So tzaddik, the first in his conflict. How do you translate tzaddik here?
Not sure. Person who has awareness of the system as a whole.
Right. So the question here is spoiler alert. Look at the Targum. Let me just put this on the screen here. So the Targum says zakai hava kadma bedine. Now there are two words that are used for tzaddik. Those who are in the Unclosed Initiative will know that there are two words that are used for tzaddik in Aramaic. There's zakai and then there's tzadika or tzadikta, I think. Tzadika, I think. So
you can differentiate like an absolutely righteous person and a person who's just righteous in din.
Right. So zakai is going to be righteous in din, right? So I think most, if not all, the Mefarshim say that that's the case here. Okay. So let's go with that for now. Okay. So still a question, how do you translate it?
Righteous in din, the first in his conflict.
I trade let me show me. What was it? Say again.
I said righteous in din, the first in his conflict.
Righteous in din, the first in his conflict. Okay. What do you say?
Meritorious one.
Meritorious one. Yeah. Hard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then what about the second half?
And comes his friend and analyzes.
Yeah. Right. Choker is usually say analyze or interrogate, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's actually, before we come up with our translation that we'll settle on, we just read you what the English translations say. So our scroll says the first, and then in brackets, to present his case. Yeah.
Just medically, is Hakaro he analyzes him? He analyzes or he interrogates or interrogates him?
Him. Yeah. He interrogates him, or he interrogated him. I'm not exactly sure the tenses here. Yeah. So our scroll says the first, and then in brackets to present his case. And then they say seems righteous in his grievance. Okay, a lot of insertions here. Then his fellow arrives and he is interrogated. He is interrogated. Okay, that's our school. Living Knox says the first to plead his case, and then also in brackets seems right, until his opponent comes and challenges him. And then Alder says first to speak in his dispute seems right.
Seems.
Yeah, all these seems, till his fellow man comes and searches him out. Yeah. Okay, then we got, you see here, Sa'dia Ga'on on the top right. Alul Rishon Hayarivim Lizakos Beta'anaso. The first of the disputants is likely, I think Alul means likely, is likely to be meritorious in his claim. Ad Shiyavo Chavero V'Yachakarehu, until his friend comes and interrogates him or examines him, or whatever you want to say. And then the Targum says, Zakai Hava Kadma Bedine, the first one was meritorious in his judgment. Va'asa chavre unatziach le, and his friend came and defeated him. So he's saying defeated, yeah.
Right, because I guess you can't read it as he's actually.
Right. Yeah, I think that's hard to say, right?
Yeah, because just because he came first, what does that do?
Yeah, right. Logically, it doesn't make sense. And also just in the court proceedings, it doesn't work. Like if there is a friend who's interrogating him, so then he can't be proclaimed actually like meritorious, Yeah.
Okay. This is talking about being like the righteous person, the righteous of the two, as an adjective, would that be like tzedek, harishon, berivo?
No, I think we do use the term tzaddik in when it comes like tzaddik b'din and rasha b'din. You know, I think those are fairly common.
Oh, so maybe it would be more accurate to translate it as the first one in his conflict is righteous, is
Meritorious.
meritorious.
Yeah. As opposed to what? I just missed the other.
As opposed to tzaddik being a noun, translated tzaddik as an adjective.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way I translated it originally, tzaddik was
right. Okay, yeah. So let's try to
I have another translation.
yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's get all the translations down now that I felt like this was one that we kind of had to do the other translations first.
Yeah.
So yeah, what's your translation, and then we'll get the
I
other
don't know
ones
if
down.
this really works, but it was just thought that the one who like comes first and presents his case first is like that's a righteous thing to do because because then you're gonna be interrogated more or something.
Interesting.
Like that.
So you're saying tzaddik, harishon, berivo, that the one. So it's defining tzaddik in this case, meaning that one is righteous if he's first in his dispute.
Yeah, because then I guess you're putting yourself out there to be attacked.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. Okay, so let me get this down. Okay, so the one who is first in his dispute is righteous. Uva re'ehu v'chakaro.
Right.
How do you translate that part?
And I guess brackets because
Okay, because good.
because his friend will come and whatever interrogate him.
His friend will come and interrogate him. That's nice.
Seemed.
Yeah, we clearly have to include a bracketed seam here. Yeah. All right. So that's Zev's translation, and then let's decide on a translation just to kind of like encapsulate the all those other English translations were kind of going the same way. So I guess the first one in his dispute, and we'll use our brackets, seems. I don't like using the word righteous, right? Yeah, seems meritorious or justified. I would say maybe is a good one. Meritorious or justified.
What's the word they use? Like the arch.
They say righteus,
Righteous.
and then Living Knox says right, and then Alter says right. Yeah, I think right is actually good because it captures the seems right.
Yeah.
Uva re'ehu v'chakaro. See, I mean, I see why they're all inserting these like chronology words like then, until, you know.
I think you just say and then
Yeah.
preserves the ambiguity.
Right. And his friend comes and interrogates him. Let's just leave it like that. Okay. All right. So let me just now delete all these translations, and then we'll have our questions here. Oh, and then hold on. I actually have to write down the Sa'di Gaon one. Sa'di Gaon one's.
I think Sa'di Gaon and Targum are very
Yeah.
similar to the
I was
English.
gonna say Sa'di Gaon is very similar to the English.
Oh, Targum also no.
Yeah, I guess right. He's likely. Yeah.
Targum, I think, just adds that point when it's
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is interesting that it says nitziach, which is to defeat as opposed to interrogate.
Right.
That seems like an interpretation more than a translation.
Yeah, that is a different.
Yeah.
thing.
All right, so we'll leave them both up there, but not have a different. Okay, so what are our questions here?
What kind of court case is this?
Yes, I guess let's just say what context is this, right? What context is this? Because I think this is, I guess we'll say, because I mean, plain pshat is a court case, right?
Yeah, but how broad?
Yeah, the question is how far can you extend this? Okay, so is this just in the context of a court case, or can it be expanded to other scenarios?
Like if a person is like, here's like an area that it could apply to possibly.
Yeah.
depending on what it is. If you're listening to two people argue
Yeah.
about something,
Right.
then is this gonna happen?
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I guess the question is can you extend it to any case where there are tainas and judgment involved in some way, you know?
Why does he seem like exciting?
Yeah, okay, what makes him seem like a tzaddik?
Because he's first.
We need to explain that though. Oh, okay. I thought you were like pulling a Ralbag like Mavor, like it's obvious. Yeah.
what is his friend doing?
Yeah,
Both-
what
both action and result?
is his friend doing and how is he doing it? Right? Yeah. Also, who is the friend? Right?
Yeah.
Because
Enemy.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
we've been assuming it's like the other party.
yeah, that's what I was saying. But that's not how the court cases work. It's not. I mean, at least in halakha, it's not like you're. I mean,
They bring an opposite case.
you do bring an opposite case. So is it saying that and just using the word interrogate, or is it? Because I think interrogate, I think of the judge.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I
know.
was gonna say it doesn't seem like that seems like the role of a friend.
Yeah.
Right. It's true.
Right.
Maybe the court is your friend.
That's the slogan of the Communist
Yeah.
Party of China. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say, who's the friend? Is it is it his fellow litigant, the judge, someone else? Yeah. Similarly, here we really need to ask who is the audience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the takeaway?
Yeah. And the reason why I say here specifically is because it is like, it's just really not clear what we're supposed to do then, like, you know, or who is being advised here.
Right, because if it's saying it's just like, yeah, it's, I mean, right, okay, whatever.
What are you gonna say? You can.
Nah, I was just gonna say, like, if you're gonna say the problem is that, oh, you don't want to be like what's it called, mistaken, and thinking this guy's actually righteous when he's not.
Yeah.
But then it's saying that, like, at the end of the day, he's gonna be found out. So what's the
Right.
like,
Right.
What's the problem?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's about it, right? Or I guess, I mean, kind of in the same boat as what is the practical advice? What? I mean, I was gonna say what is the consequence, but I guess the consequence is he'll be interrogated or defeated. But we still need to ask the question though, like what's the consequence here? I'll put in the same question.
Will he, I mean, also if he's guilty, will he not be defeated if he goes second? Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah. It only seems to be focusing on one outcome.
yeah.
Alrighty. So we got our work cut out for us now.
Also, opposites.
So should we start with the? Let's just start with the first clause, right? Because that's the part that is the most easy, most straightforward to think about, I think. So what makes him seem right when he's first?
So,
I think
what's questions did I miss?
So the questions I have here, I'll just read all of them again. So what is the context here? Is it just a court case or is it broader than that? What makes him seem like a tzaddik? What exactly is his friend doing and how is he doing it? Who is the friend? Is it his fellow litigant, the judge, someone else? Who is the audience? What is the practical advice and what are the consequences? That's kind of in one.
What about the opposites?
The opposites, good question. Yeah, okay. What is the opposite? What are the opposites? Yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the guy who goes first in court, he's likely gonna seem innocent because he's gonna present this case and he's gonna make a compelling case. And you haven't heard anything else until that point.
Right.
So this guy's just defending himself, like, yeah, sounds like he's innocent.
Right.
Until the other guy comes in, and then you have a counter argument,
right?
And it's like, oh, okay, there's a whole bunch of flaws in that story that weren't noticeable or brushed over, whatever.
Yeah, right. So just the very fact that he's unopposed,
right,
gives him a leg up in terms of the in terms of being convincing. But then the interesting thing is that. So what happens then when the other guy interrogates him? Like,
no, the other guy seems good.
Right. So I mean, is it pointing out an advantage and a disadvantage here? Like on the one hand, you get the benefit of the unchallenged claim at first, but then you also are the one who has your claim, interrogated.
Yeah, I think I actually think that the way that we're translating it, also the way that Zeb was saying it, they're actually pretty closely related because because you seem good, and then the other guy gets a chance to pick you apart and present his thing in a way that now seems flawless relative to yours.
Yeah.
So both I'm just noting that also the way that Zev was reading it ends up at this point also.
Yeah, right here. Just going back to your translation though, just to make sure I got it. the one who's right, his first in his dispute is righteous, but we can translate that to right? You didn't mean
well, I was
specifically.
thinking, no, it's
Oh, you're saying you were
saying
saying righteous. Okay, that's why I wrote it. Okay, yeah, all right, fine.
Right.
So then, is that still work with what you're saying that the two are similar? Because that to me seems like a.
Well, I think it's this, like, it's just taking the same situation we're working with and just saying, oh, it's good to put yourself in that situation.
And why is it good?
Well, it's good for the system or whatever, exotic things. I don't know exactly. I'm not sure.
Okay, fair enough. One thing,
I was saying mechanistically.
Yeah.
It turns out to be the same phenomenon. We're talking with like.
You mean it makes reference to the same phenomenon, not in terms of what it's trying to say about that phenomenon. No. Yeah. Okay, I see. That's what you mean mechanistically. Yeah. One thing I'm seeing already though, which I don't know if this is like already an idea or if this is just a step, is that it's a mistake. In other words, there's two things going on. If you're the judge, okay, maybe I'll state this in terms of the perspective of the judge, then. And the first guy's comments seem convincing, and then when he's interrogated, then they seem like they have problems. Then you have to realize that part of how convincing they are is just the order of presentation. It's not actually stemming from what he's saying. That seems like a basic underlying thing in this idea, is that separating the impact of the order of presenting the case from the content of the case. Like, I feel like if you're not aware of that, then you're just going, that itself is a distorted judgment. Someone has to go first, right?
Right.
But you have to but they're going to have an advantage, they're going to have a disadvantage. You have to offset that if you're in the position of judgment to be able to look past that. And like, when you hear the second guy, for example, give his case, you have to try to treat it as though, what would happen if I heard this first? And just like play them off of each other in that way. Like, you have to like simulate the reordering, because you're a being who exists in time. You can only hear things in one order, Yeah.
Yes, we say, I had a Rebbe who told a story about a student who like came to him like a few years after he left yeshiva, and the guy basically said it feels like a paper bag blowing in the wind, because whosever ideas he hears most recently, he like believes and like latches onto. Yeah. And like whatever is just the most recent chacham that he listens to, he just subscribes to. Yeah. So there's definitely an idea of like hearing something and like, oh, that sounds good, but then you hear something else and that sounds better. Right. And you're just gonna. Yeah. Right. There's got to be a name for that kind of bias. Probably like recency bias or something like. Yeah.
It's a little bit like reading a book that has like a surprise plot twist at the end, and then you like you kind of have to like reread the book to see if like it made sense the whole time that this was like gonna happen. I hear it, because it's so obvious. How could this have not happened? Whereas like, oh, the bad guy was actually the good guy, and the good guy was the bad guy. Yeah. Like
So is this a full idea, or is this just the start of an idea?
It seems kind of obvious to me, like that a judge should like.
Obvious in the same way that a surprise twist is obvious, or.
Obvious that the judge shouldn't be like making assessments based on his like initial feelings about it.
But see, I don't think, I think this is slightly different. This is more specific than just saying don't make judgments based on your initial feelings. This is saying that you need to be aware that there is a categorical bias that will attach itself to anyone who's the first person to present their case. Yeah. I can definitely say that I used this when I was a high school teacher, because there's a thing where, you're always going to, if a kid does something in class that is like cheating or misbehaving, whatever, and it gets to the point where you need to call the parent. So that most parents, unless they're very good parents, will automatically side with their kid no matter what, So it is very important. So what I would often, I rarely had to call parents, but like if I ever did, I would call them immediately after class was over, so that I plant my taina in their mind before their kid comes home and tells them the taina, or before they get to lunch and the kid calls them, because like I know that I have to counteract the bias that the parent's going to have, and so I have to rely on this.
I thought you were going to say you like Dafka waited.
Oh,
make the kids seem righteous.
Right.
that would be another way to do it, right? Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Then we have to explain this.
Yes, right. So uva re'ehu v'chakaro. I mean, the way we were saying it before is that, like initially, is that there is an advantage that the first guy enjoys, and then there's also a disadvantage because he's the one who gets shot down. And I feel I used to succumb to this a lot when it came to reading refutations, that there's a certain power to the refuter because he's on the attack, and and that's another bias. Yeah.
That's why in like persuasive essays, teachers have you like supply a counter argument, but then counter the counter argument.
Yes, right. I'm teaching that this week. Yeah, planting the naysayer. But I think that's also something that I feel. I was never in debate club, but I feel like in certain classes I did. Then we did debate. And is it a standardized thing that like the negative side always has the last word? I think the affirmative has the first case. Yeah, right. I always felt kind of like why should the negative side get the last word? Yeah.
It's a big team, not a big club.
So then what would that, so according to the way we're learning the first one, according to the way I was saying the first one, I don't know if this is if we're finalized on this, but like the judge needs to be aware of this bias.
Right.
And when I say judge, I think this would apply not just to court cases, certainly in court cases, but like anytime you're judging someone, like in the parent example, yeah, right. So then what would the second half be saying in line with that? Uva re'ehu. See, now I'm starting to think maybe the Greek sieve is a thing. Yavo re'ehu v'chakaro. Uva re'ehu v'chakaro. Because we were saying uva is lav davka past tense, right? That doesn't, I mean, it's just like, we can really read that with any tense. And then the English ones also said that. And Sa'dya says future tense, really, achi yavo chaver v'chakarehu.
How do you pronounce the Cree?
The Cree, the ksiv yavo.
Yavo.
Yeah. I mean, this also, is this also advice to the testifier?
Could be like, don't show your whole hand.
Right. Well, I was thinking of it the other way, but that way is equally possible. I was going to think that like, there's a certain confidence that a person has just in the airtight nature of their case, or not airtight nature, in the person has confidence in his case and doesn't factor in, and then that is confirmed when he is the first to testify, and like everyone's like, and then like they don't factor in how the judging party is going to be swayed by the attack, So the practical advice, maybe like what Joe's saying, is like don't tip your whole hand, but yeah, I'm trying to put this into words. In other words, like the guy, meaning the guy who is presenting his case first is not on the defense in his presentation, but he should be, because he has to preemptively combat the attack that is gonna come to him, Like, I feel like I don't have any particular examples in mind, but in all of the rounds of the political debates, not so much the presidential ones, but like in the primaries and stuff, I feel like this is a mistake that a lot of people made, is like I don't really remember who made this mistake, but like the first person to speak would kind of just present their case, and then the second one would be extremely on the attack. And like, it was just clear that the first person didn't really think about that to like,
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like when you're writing like a persuasive essay, you have to think about what they're going to argue about and preempt that so they can't.
Right, that's what Joe just said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'm saying I'm agreeing with.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's when you're like presenting the case, you have to do that.
Right, and I think there is a reticence to do that, because I think Like I find this with my English students when I first teach them this concept. They say, but isn't it going to weaken my argument if I like say what the other people are going to argue against me? To the contrary, by preempting it and then responding to it, you're strengthening your argument. You know, you're taking away the power of their attack, or you get to frame their attack.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Just like how you present it really matters, and if you can like present it in a way that's like a weaker form of it, like a straw man or something, not where it's like
that is also not advisable.
not where it's like, I'm saying not like to an extreme,
Yeah.
it's like but where you're not properly representing it, then they can like, but you can present it in a way that doesn't like have the same like feeling of potency.
Yeah, I mean, I actually advocate the opposite, right? Is the if you steel man their attack, you create the strongest case for their attack, and then you refute the strongest case. Then that's even better, you know, especially because it's more genuine, you know.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, then that means that your argument has a problem. Like, you know, if you can't stand up to the strongest form of your enemy's attack. I was going to say another thing though about just to restate what I was going to say is that, like, even if you don't do that, if you as the Rishon Berivo, no one has yet heard objections, so you get to dictate the terms of the objections if you voice them first, or if you preemptively like frame them, you know. So now the other, like, let's say like I know a certain attack that you're going to have on me, so if I state a version of your objection first, which is not yours, you now have to do the double work of saying, well, the objection that he said is not really good, and you have to define all of your, you have to, yeah, you have to modify your claim. You have to use my voicing of your objection as the reference point for your objection, which weakens it. It like takes the wind out of the sails, you know?
Yeah.
In the judge's mind, is he going to judge less harshly the first, the first disputer?
Is he going to judge him less harshly? Well,
Because
I mean, there's going to be a default, like, let's put it this way. Let me think how to say it here.
like if the pasuk is addressing the judge, like
Yeah.
you spin it.
Yeah, what do you say? Because on the one hand, there is going to be a certain consideration of innocent until proven guilty. We're not even talking about, let's say, like innocence and guilt in classical sense, because we're talking about two litigants here. But like, there's going to be a tendency to, yeah, how can I put it? I was going to say take the guy at his word. Obviously, that's not what the judge is going to do, because he is going to ask questions if questions need to be asked.
Right.
But he's not going to. There's no counter narrative. You know, so like he'll ask questions about the facts, but the one who really makes the counter narrative is Re'ehu, you know, is his friend who interrogates him, who's presenting the other side.
Seen on his friend over there.
Yeah, comrade, right? Is that what we said? Was that this year? Yeah.
Like people say, it's really hard to define something if it's not a machlokas.
Yes. Yeah, it is like that. Yeah. So Ezra, the answer to your question is, like, I think a responsible judge would do all he could to verify the claim that the first guy is making, but it's not the judge's position to try to attack it in the same way that the second guy will be doing, I think.
Oh no, I meant like after the second friend attacks it.
Yeah.
It's gonna seem usually that the second friend is right, and he's the Zakai.
Right.
But should the judge use this pasuk to realize that?
Yes. That is also a bias.
Right, both ways.
It's both ways. Yeah. Yeah. You have to be aware of both biases. Let's look at the Metzudas David, because I think that's the closest to this direction, if I remember correctly. I don't know if I remember correctly. And then tomorrow, maybe the Rabbeinu Yonah is a completely different approach, I think. All right, so let's look at Metzudas David here. Hold on, I'm just gonna get this on screen. All right, Metzudas David says, Tzadik, Haba Rishon Beriv Yidme LaTzadik. So that's where they all get the seams from, Berivo in his dispute. Ki yuchal lahatim devarav ulahachnisam belev. This is a little bit more sinister, right? He can, well, I don't know if lahatim is being used in the, like, make them tasty, or endow them with reasons, with his words, ulahachnisam believe, and make them enter into the heart. Ho'il v'lo amar mi b'chiluf, because no one's saying the opposite. V'kasher yavo re'ehu v'yomer ha'chiluf yidamehu l'shakran v'yarbe lachkor v'dvarav. And then when his friend comes and says the opposite, then he'll seem like a liar. V'yarbe lachkor v'dvarav. Now, who's the yarbe here?
I think it's the second person is being investigated. I think that's what you're saying.
Say again?
I think he's saying the subject of the chakira is the second person. I think he's saying.
Really? Hold on. Let me read that. V'kasher yavo re'ehu v'yomer b'chiluf yidamehu l'shakran. No, it's the first guy, right? The first guy will be made out to seem like a liar. V'yarbe, and he will.
No, I think he's saying that the second guy is going to seem like a liar because the first guy had like a compelling story, and now they're going to investigate the second guy.
Let me look at this again. I don't think so. The reason why I don't think so is because the parallel way he phrases it is Hava Rishon beriv yidme latzadik, and then kasher yavorehu v'yomer hachiluf yidmehu l'shakran. Sounds like it's talking about the same guy. That the first guy's going to seem like a tzaddik.
It sounds like it's talking about the opposite guy.
Okay.
It lines like the second guy lines up nicely with this intuitive way of looking at them. Like the first guy who has this nice coherent story is the guy who's telling the truth, and the guy who is creating all of these conflicts is the guy who's lying.
No, but he says Ho'il v'lo amar mi b'chalav.
Yeah, right.
He seems like a good guy since
no one said the opposite, right?
But if someone were to say the opposite,
I think that's really where it's coming from.
Yeah. I also say about that that the is that when the first guy is presenting, there's no one opposing him. When the second guy is presenting, there is someone who's opposing him.
Who's opposing him?
The first guy.
First guy.
Guy's story is opposing him, and so that's why he seems like a liar.
All right, I guess we'll have to do this one out. I'm siding with Joe here.
Yeah. You know why? Because that's the interpretation that we said first.
I think it's just more mashma read.
Yeah, I think it's more mashma read also. Like I think he's setting up to read like that with the clauses.
He's saying Yidmel is sounding like.
Yeah.
He appears.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't telling you who's actually righteous or not. But this is the subconscious way that a person relates to it. I think that's what he's saying. That first guy seems good, the second guy seems bad.
Let me just read it again. Havar rishon beriv yidme latzadik berivo ki yuchal lahatim devarav lahachnisim believe hoyel v'lo amar mi b'chilaf. So he's going to seem like a tzaddik because he can make his words tasty and enter into the heart, and no one is going to, because no one said the opposite. V'kasher yavo re'ehu v'yomer hachilaf, and when his friend comes and says the opposite, now you're saying yidamehu, then this, no, yidamehu is he will make him seem. Yidame oso, he will make him seem. He will make the first guy seem.
Maybe the first guy will make the second guy seem.
No. I think that's I don't think that's the.
It's just not good.
That's just not a straight reading. V'yarbe lachkor b'dvarav. Yeah, the only thing I still am unclear about is who's yarbe lachkor b'dvarav. Is that I think that in other words, like when the first guy is enjoying the status of being the presumed truth teller, then they're not going to be marbe in the chakiras. But then once the second guy challenges him, so now anything's fair game, right. And they're going to be marbe lachkor b'dvarav. I just want to see. Hold on a second. I just want to see if the Radak, who you don't have.
I think the Machni. I think the Machnisim Belev is indicative, is like explains the phenomenon I'm talking about, which is that what he's saying is true, and the person will subconsciously accept it as what happened. And then when the second guy comes and gives a conflicting thing with what you like subconsciously think is like what happened, then now he seems like a liar. And
he
the second guy.
The second guy.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's what Metzudas David is saying. Yeah. Hold on just 1 second here. Look at so I put on the very back, like to the very, very last page is the Ralbag, who they printed differently, or they printed not in line with the others, probably because of the shitas. No, I'm just kidding. So he says in Yud Zayin, I forgot if this is the same or not, but I just want to see. Tzadik Rishon, Ulzer Roy Lafazer Bazeh Ofen Be'es Hatzorech. Okay, that seems to be going off of the previous pasuk, so let's ignore that for a second. Okay, so yeah, we hold on just 1 second. Maybe we do have to read the previous one. Oh, so he's taking this as part of the previous one about going in front of Gedolim. I don't know if the idea is central to that, but that's what he means. Therefore, you should be generous in this manner. At a time of need. So if you're a generous person, if you're Ish Matan, then when you go in front of the Gedolim, you'll have an advantage over the person who's disputing with you. I wonder if that, does yours say Menagid?
We have Mugad.
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 See, I would have said, Mugad makes more sense. I was going to say Magid, but Mugad is also fine, assuming that that's a real conjugation. Not Menagid. So it is the derech of Anashim to believe the account of what is told to them first. And therefore, the first person who comes in front of the judge will seem righteous in his dispute. Because he'll believe his words. And when his friend comes to tell him the opposite of these things, lo yaminuhu. Oh, so that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
That I agree with that this is what the Ralbag is saying. Kim achar hachakira hashlema, until after he interrogates him a lot.
Oh, so you're saying like this is that.
V'hinei lazos hasiba mana'a haTorah. Oh, so this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring this in. So for this reason, the Torah prohibited shelo yishma hadayan divrei bal din kodem sheyavo bal din chavero. So the Torah made it usher to hear the words of one litigant before he hears the words of another one. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean that they have to testify at the same time. He means like prior to the case or whatever. Kizeh yihye siba. When he's not present. Kizeh yihye siba el shetiye da'ato yoser krova el mishi yishma devarav barishona. Because this would be a cause that his mind would be more in line with what he hears of the words of the first one. And Shlomo is pointing this out in this pasuk. I just wanted to read that halakha though. Just I looked it up beforehand. So it's in Hilvos Sanhedrin.
The Rome has a separate law, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we read it in the Vikios. Chaf Aleph Zayin. He says, "Asr l'dayan lishmo divrei echad mibali dinim kodem sheyavo chavero o shelo bifnei bal chavero." So it's also for the judge to hear the words of one of the litigants before his fellow comes, or not in front of his fellow. Vafilu davar echad asr. Even one word is asr. Shnemar shemoa bein achechem. It says, "Listen among your brethren," meaning all of them. V'chol hashemeim echad over below taseh. And anyone who hears from one of them first violates lo taseh. Shnemar lo tisa shem ashav. Don't listen to a false report. This is an interesting thing. Included in this lav, ashara lemakabo lashon hara umasaper lashon hara umeid edu sheker. 3 things. So it is interesting. I never noticed this until just now. I think when people talk about the isser to listen to lashon hara, they lump it under the isser of lashon hara itself. It seems reasonable, right? But he's saying it's he doesn't. I mean, he mentions the makabo lashon hara there, but I don't recall him saying that it's included in the law of lo seilach rachil be'amacha in as explicit terms as he does here. Well, we have to check and see, but here he's saying like it's an ashara to the makabel lashon hara, although he does say umasaper lashon hara, umeid sheker, edu sheker. I'll check after this. V'chein bal din mushar shelo yashmiya devarav l'dayan kodem she'avo bal din chavero. Also, the bal din, the litigant himself, it's usher for him to make his words heard to the dayan beforehand. So it's a lav on both of them. Both of these are included in midvar sheker tirchak. Yeah. Let me just check out the Rambam in Lashon Hara really quickly. So the plan for tomorrow, what I would like to do is I want to think about the Metzudas David again, because I am convinced that he's saying, I'm convinced that what you said is what the Ralbag is saying, but I think the Metzudas David is saying differently. And also, I mean, all the English translations also go with that, right? I mean, that's definitely what they're saying. And what Sa'adya Gaon said also, right? And then I also want to do the Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah makes it about this exact case of like when you try to sneak in your words to the judge first. And I think I want to explore that also. Yeah, let me just see this wrong here.
So we'll just say about these two ideas, which are like they are opposite forces.
Yeah.
But like they're not necessarily balanced. So like
because they operate differently, I think, right? Yeah.
Which two forces?
The trusting the person who you heard first, and the ability to take apart the other person's argument. And so like it's not like just because they are like opposing doesn't mean that they balance out, and so it's like equal.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just I haven't read through the entire parak in this 5 seconds that I just looked at it, but I'm pretty sure the Rambam does not mention the law of accepting Lashon Hara in the halachas of Lashon Hara. He mentions the phenomenon. He says, "V'yesh amru chacham shlosha Lashon Hara horeges ha'omro v'amakabalu v'zesh omrin v'amakabalu yasur min ha'omro." But it sounds like that Isser in Sanhedrin is where he says it's usher to accept Lashon Hara.
What was the name of the law?
What was the what?
What was the law itself?
The law itself in Sanhedrin?
Yeah.
The title of it? We'll have to look in the Mishnah Torah because here he just Lo tis Hashem hashav. Yeah, Lo tis Hashem hashav. Don't listen to a false report. Yeah.
What was going on where you mentioned Lashon Hara?
That was talking about the effects of Lashon Hara in hold on. In the context of that was in Yesh Avon Gadol Mizeh Ad Ma'od, the one that's worse than Rechilas, and then he defines Lashon Hara. And he says, Amr Chachamim al shalosh averos nifraim min alam balazev ein lachelek lam haba. And then v'od Amr Chachamim kol masar Lashon Hara. So he's talking about like how bad Lashon Hara is, and then he mentions this at the end of that. Yeah. All right, let's stop for here today.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes.